checar a minha stream, por favor.
Não vai deixar a luz azul?
Posso deixar alternante?
Pode.
Você gosta de estático? Você gosta de cuidar da iluminação?
Sim.
Que bonitinho.
Player step, player radix plus. Seems like you should be doing this. I feel like you'd probably be pretty good at it. Have you ever been interested in like making your own game or whatnot? Yeah. Let me guess, you've already made one? An engine? I've never understood, why would you make your own engine when there's already stuff like Unreal Engine out there that's free to use? You don't play games. You cannot imagine gameplay. See, I can imagine gameplay very easily. But making it is much harder. As you can tell, as I'm struggling. Graphics, resource management, and localization. You think you can do it better than like Unreal Engine though? I don't know. I've never been able to like wrap my head around why people make their own engines. Besides just for like the challenge of doing it, I guess. This should be... Here's a way of doing it. You don't believe it is the way? Ah, okay. I guess that's right, and it is just... Or you can just reference the units pointer. Because either way, it doesn't matter. Because we can take in either... Hi there, Hitchem Ken... Oh wait, I'm just gonna call you Hitch. Can you please teach us Python? Who is us? I'm currently doing C++. I know some Python. Same, I think an engine can make to the game. Me, myself, and I. Well, do you have Python installed? Would probably be a good place to start. You really want to be good at it? Learning to Google is a very good skill. Not that I wouldn't be willing to help, but... You have everything installed? Nice job. Alright, well, open up your idle. Well, I'm assuming you know how to do, like, Hello World, right? Of course. Well, hey, I don't know. Well, do you know, like, loops? Can you do, like, a for loop? Where you print... a changing number? What I want to do here, and the reason that I made this player instead of player name, is I should be able to...
Recarrega a minha página. Não tá não.
increment
Você tá no
the
C2 Live Following. Põe. Ah,
values
beleza.
of the units within player
Valeu, meu anjo.
directly instead of through the pointer if I want to.
Eu acho que você tem que ser mais profissional.
Really hard for you to create
Falar,
something. Well, think of something that you
eu
want
sou
to
tua
create.
sócia e você é meu sócio, quando a gente tá falando na live.
Well, okay, let's assume that you know, like, for loops,
Ai,
you
mãe,
know all the types
para.
of loops.
Ai, não
Right?
vou aguentar muita
From
lição.
You can make, like, a simple
Muita
RPG game,
lição de moral.
right? Like,
Não
just
vou
a
aguentar, acho que vou
text-based
dormir.
RPG game. Like, you start in a forest. You see a path. You have two options, right or left. Choose a path to go on. Right? And then you keep going that way. And then you kind of learn some of the basics that way at least, and gives you a project to work on. And then maybe you want to introduce monsters that you can fight against, right? And at first it can be just a monster that... Yeah, at first the options can be just, do you want to run away from the monster or do you want to kill the monster? And then they choose an option. Right? And then that option makes another thing. And then you can, once you get bored of that, you can start doing things like making different types of monsters, which might require like a class. Or you can make something like a class system like in Skyrim, where you can choose to be a barbarian or a mage, which again requires a programming class. And then maybe that's stronger or weaker, and this can all still be text-based, against certain types of monsters, which would be a subclass of your monster class. Because each monster might have, like, health and something like that, right? So you can kind of... at least when I think of it, that's how I recommend people learn. Because you can start out really simple with, like, an RPG thing. And then you can start making new things as you get bored. or as you realize you've mastered the basics, you can start learning the next thing. And then you can start making more intricate, like, options. So, like, maybe something like you engage a monster. Do you choose to attack or run? You choose attack. You can choose different attack types, maybe. So, like, do you want to use your bow and arrow, or do you want to use your sword? You choose your sword. And then you do a random number output that does a certain amount of damage. And then, like a Pokemon game, then attacks back, right? And then based off of those actions and how much health you give your person or whatever, they either defeat the monster or they die and they get set back like a checkpoint, quote unquote, or something else. See? Does that make sense? Meanwhile, as I don't move here, that's hard for me, I'm just a beginner. Well, remember, you can go back to the very beginning of what I said, is that you can just create some for loops and while loops for the basics, right? So you just start with some text that says you are at an entrance to a forest. There's 2 paths. Which do you take? And then you make an input that's just right or left. Or you give 2 options, right or left. And then they have to choose one of those options. They either have to type in right or they have to type in left. And then if they type in something else, then you say, you provide an invalid input. Choose right or left. That's a while loop. Right? So this teaches you, okay, so you need a while loop here so that they have to choose one option or the other. So then maybe you get them to say right. So then you write some more text, you go down the path, blah, 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 blah. You meet a monster. Do you want to fight the monster or do you want to run? You give them 2 more options. If it's run, then it's one set of options. And if it's fight, then it's either you kill or you die. And let's say you die, then that can be a for loop that basically spits you back out at a earlier quote-unquote checkpoint. So basically you get reverted out of that loop and you go to a outer scope loop. But that'll teach you like for loops, while loops at the very start. And all you have to do is be able to print out some text and input some text. And if you don't know what like a for loop is, then you can Google what a for loop is, right? And then you can practice like just using a for loop to maybe print out a couple of numbers in a row. Here, let me show you. I could probably do it in C++, actually. I should have just done it in C++. Oh well. Seems easy, but it's hard to write the code. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's definitely hard to wrap your mind around it, to begin with. New Python file. I like just making a bunch of files named test. Alright, so. Print. You're in a forest. There are 2 paths. Do you want to go right or left? User input equals input. Yep, wrong button. While user input does not equal right or user input does not equal left, print oopsies. You must choose right or left. And then you do user input again, equals input. Oh! So now they're forced to use an input, and this will get you back out, or this will overwrite the original variable that you've made out here. And then you can do... That should already take care of that, actually. So now, you can make a new thing. If user input equals right. So you see kind of where I'm going with this? Then you do this. Has. Or if user input equals left. I'm assuming this all works. I could be wrong. Prints. You find an ogre. After meandering down the path. Damn it. Do you want to fight the ogre or run? And then you do another loop that is something like, or another while loop. Fight or run equals input. There's a better way to do this, I'm sure. This is just off the top of my head. Fight or run is not equal fight or fight or run is not equal run. Print. So I'll show you something else. So now you're realizing, okay, well, we have a bunch of things here where we're passing in two options. How can we make this a little bit easier? So maybe we make a function called Jeff choose options with option 1 and option 2. Then we make a while loop that says while not option 1 or not option 2 print please choose an option. This needs to be an F string. 1 or option 2. So this just introduced you to like 5 different things, right? So you have while loops, you have user input, you have prints, you have parameters, you have a function, you have booleans. That's what those are called. Like not or and is not a boolean. Not as a keyword, sorry. Or a logical operator is what it should be. And you have F strings. So that's like 10 different things that you can already look into. And I don't know what you know, right? So I don't know if you know what a while loop is. But if you don't know what a while loop is, you can practice by doing like prints. Make the actual while loop first. Or we'll assume you don't know what a for loop is, which is a different type of loop. So you need to look up what a loop is, and then you say, okay, well, what can I do with a for loop? So maybe we print 1 through 5. So for I in range of 5, print I. So then you kind of have to like logic your way through this. So what's a range? Range is a bunch of numbers between x and y. So if we know that range starts at 0, because that's how Python works, everything starts at 0 instead of 1, then we know that this will print 1 through 5 in theory, right? But if we actually run this, assuming that I run the right things, it's 1 through 4, or 0 through 4. So why is that? Because these are technically 5 numbers, but if we're starting at 0, then it only goes to 4. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 numbers. So now you just learned what a for loop is and what a range is. And then you just kind of keep, it won't be easy, or it won't come to you quickly. But as you start with like a simple project, kind of like this, and you realize, okay, well, I want to do this. How do I do it? Then you can Google that thing as to how to do that. Or you can ask somebody, like in my Discord. I don't know if you're even still there or not. And you can ask, and me or somebody more knowledgeable than I will tell you, okay, well, here's what you're trying to accomplish. Here's maybe a couple of links that you can read that will help you with that. And then if there's something in there that you don't understand, then you can Google that keyword and keep learning. Or just pay someone like Zerker to do it for you. I wish that's how it worked, haha, dead. Problem with that is, if I want to make a game, I can't really pay someone God knows how much money to make like a really expensive game. So that's why I'm learning instead. So does all that make sense, kind of? I'm gonna stop talking for a second and let you respond. You're really helpful, no problem. And actually, if you click that link, I'll make you into a programmer, or a coder. So that'll give you access to like a couple private rooms where I post, or where people post things. I'm gonna change your nickname just so I can remember who the heck you are. What was that other guy's name? Haha, dead. Oh, Infernos. Make... What's the word I'm looking for? like indented code. There you go. Hopefully that makes sense. So I can probably close this. And back to staring at what I was originally doing and not making any progress. I would definitely say, Hitchum, it's good to show that you've tried to do something before you ask questions. So, like, say you're like, I want to be able to print a bunch of numbers in a row, but I don't know how to do that. I googled what I could, but I wasn't able to find any solutions. Can somebody give me like a keyword to look for? And then somebody might say like, okay, well you need a loop to be able to print a bunch of those numbers. And then you can kind of Google what a loop is. Instead of asking just for like, I want to print a bunch of numbers. Somebody please do it for me. If that makes sense. People are much more willing to help if you are willing to put in the effort yourself. I guess is the wording that I'm looking for. What are you working on? I was trying to make a little like game, I guess you'd call it. So the concept is you have two armies going towards each other. They meet in the middle and then they do combat, and one army is still alive at the end, right? In C++. I've already done this in Python. I'm trying to move it over to C++ so that I can, well, learn C++ so that I can eventually use something like Unreal Engine and make more complex stuff. What is this link? This is something I want to be pressing. It's just a random thing. So this is basically like a... Yeah. That's what I thought it was gonna be. That helped. Oh, the link? No. I've already done a little bit more complicated than what that link was for. As you can see with all this shenanigans that I've made. All 200 lines of it. It's a little bit more abstract, honestly. Right now, I have already the ability to set units on a XYZ axis, or value on a map, quote-unquote map. So now it's a matter of actually starting to move both sides simultaneously. That should work. Because this is a player class. Not entirely sure how to reference class object in CP method. A lot of it is passing and returning objects is just knowing the right keywords to use. Function name, object name. Oh, so this would be like player 1. What is easier? Python is definitely easier, without a doubt. Just, yeah. Oh, I got rid of my notepad thing that I had earlier. C++ is harder because there's a lot of more minutia type things that you have to deal with. Like memory management and like defining the types that you're dealing with. You can do what you're working on in Python, right? Yes. So there's something called Turing Complete. And you might want to Google this in addition to the what I'm going to say right now. And this is Turing Complete. And this is basically the idea that something that is, or a language that is Turing Complete can be completed or done in any other language. So in theory, anything that I make in Python, I can also make in C++, I can also make in Java, I can also make in, technically, even Excel is Turing Complete. So anything I'm making here, technically I could do in Excel. But pretty much any language, any programming language, they're all Turing Complete. So anything that you can do in one, in theory you can do in the other. It's just that some languages excel at some things over others. So like because of the fact that you're managing memory yourself, and the fact that you are, there isn't as much code in some of the things that you might import or use, it runs faster as a result because it's not as bogged down with other things that you don't need. Whereas Python has all that extra gunk in it, so it doesn't run as fast, but you don't need to worry about some things as a result. Hey, thanks for the follow. I'm realizing my alert box wasn't on, and that's probably why my notifications weren't coming up. Let's see if that fixes it. Sure. I had to follow you because I was so concentrated. I got you. There you go. Oops. I can't believe I just typed that. Firefox seems to have an issue with logging in. Oh, have to grab my phone. Damn it. Ugh. So yeah, I would recommend if you have Python all set up, and maybe even PyCharm like I have.
Hai vittu.
Qual o sabor que você vai querer de macarrão?
I am the grocery bag. You mean a couple of hours ago, I think. Uh, uh, Oi, o que você quer?
Quero saber qual é o sabor do macarrão que eu vou fazer o meu agora. Ou vai querer um sorvete com creme?
Eu queria um lame de carne. Ah, Sorry. Hey, sorry. People looking. I trust. Okay. Hey, sorry. I'm yawning a lot. Maybe I should sleep. Maybe I should. Why? So, empty grocery bag. What are you learning? How, how can. What are you learning? What are you learning? Oh, or you have just been introduced to the course, to your community college course. In the beginning, there's only intro and intros. Playground. Multimídia, áudio, pouquinho. Playground. Overload. Function not found. Pum. Well, I just got back from the first Linux class of the semester. Introductory Java last semester, and this semester I'm learning about that structures. Nice. I'm yawning again. Sorry. Don't be bold. I am really some sort of very bad. Just got back from the first Linux class of the semester. Have you ever used Linux before? Empty grocery bag. Mm. So I ran into an EFI issue. Okay. So the class was very like um, the class about Linux. You felt like I think it's always good to have classes, you know, even if it's about things you know. There are so many different points of view. There are so many ways to uh, board. There are so many ways to approach a, a matter. So I think I don't know Linux quite that well. The first class was basic, but the textbooks is exhaustive. So I hope to fill the holes in my knowledge. Yeah, nice, cool. I'm told Ubuntu is the best user-friendly Linux. That's fine. Hi, it's fine. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, Arch Linux. This one empty grocery bag was used for a while. In fact, you know, I would like to congratulate you to use. Was Arch Linux your first Linux? Because it's really difficult. I have in this machine. I have installed Ubuntu, Fedora, OpenSUSE, and I don't remember and Manjaro. I tried to install Arch Linux, but when I first tried to install Arch Linux, I remember it asked the model of my network card. When the operating when Arch Linux asked me in the first one of the first screens, it asked, "Oh, what's the model?" In a very technical way, do you know? I thought, no, I'm not going to install that. I don't know. Uh, yes, even if it's something you know already, you can always learn new things in class. I think Ubuntu was my first distro a long time ago. Oh, okay. My first distro was Connectiva Linux, Brazilian Linux. I remember that I didn't have support to my computers, some device in my computer, but this Connectiva Linux doesn't exist anymore. I think it has been absorbed into Mandriva. Into Mandrake merged with Connective and created and they assembled Mandriva. I don't know if Mandriva still exists. But setting up a basic Arc installation only takes about 15 minutes if you follow the wiki. That though it's difficult and time consuming to configure. Yeah, I don't like Arch Linux, it's too difficult. I prefer any other flavor, and yes, Ubuntu is the most user-friendly, I guess so. It's the easiest to install, it's easiest in all senses, you know. But do you know Manjaro? I don't know if you know Manjaro, empty grocery bag, but Manjaro is based on Arch Linux, but it's much easier to install. And it's very good, very matured, you know, I think so. If you go to distrowatch.com, you can see some of the most popular distros today. I think MX Linux is at the top now. Yes, I would use Manjaro. MX? What's this? MX Linux.
Eu acho que o que a gente tem aqui é uma mistura de coisas, uma fórmula não muito original de coisas interessantes colocadas junto que talvez funcione para algumas pessoas. Se você está procurando um lugar
É só
ideal para
misturar.
hospedar
Mas
seu
tudo que
site,
tá
Por
vazio aí
o
enquanto.
também
vídeo
não.
de hoje tem a solução. Na HostGator você tem várias opções diferentes de planos e serviços criados especialmente para tirar a sua ideia do papel. O suporte funciona 24 horas, todos os dias,
É
o
aquela
ano
linha, não
todo,
tem?
com as
Não,
ofertas
não tem
especiais de
nada.
servidores dedicados e
Esquece.
venda de hospedagem muito mais que você encontra aqui na descrição. Vai ser fácil colocar o seu sonho em prática. Vamos conhecer hoje, pessoal, o MX Linux, uma distro meio grega, meio norte-americana com base no Debian e raízes nas comunidades do Unix e do
A água
Memphis.
abençoada
Aqui se
chegando.
fala Memphis. E a primeira coisa que você tem que saber é, dammit, quem foi que teve essa ideia de colocar essa barra desse jeito? O MX usa o XFCE com o visual modificado ligeiramente de uma forma nada convencional. Não é como uma dock lateral ou a barra de Unity, é um monte de coisa empilhada que quando você clica em um ícone ele cobre os demais. Uma forma, eu diria, no mínimo esquisita, para se dar um visual peculiar para distro. E parece que isso não é uma implicação minha, inclusive, não é uma implicação só da minha parte. Essa é a primeira pergunta no FAQ do fórum deles. Eu até hoje não vi ninguém que use o MX Linux do jeito que ele vem de fábrica. E olha que eu conheço gente que usa o XFCE com uma barra do lado esquerdo, só que não desse jeito. Bom, felizmente é fácil fazer essa alteração para algo que eu vou chamar de versão sem painkiller. A grosso modo, vemos uma interface XFCE agora bem mais padronizada, semelhante ao que nós vemos em outras distros com a mesma interface, sobre uma base muito estável, usando o popular tema Arc e algumas de suas variações, além do tema Papyrus para os ícones. Provavelmente o que chama mais atenção dentro do MX Linux são as suas várias e extremamente úteis e com um design de gosto duvidoso ferramentas de configuração. O próprio painel de boas-vindas te apresenta algumas opções fantásticas, desde a parte de documentação do sistema até ferramentas que vão te auxiliar a colocar o seu sistema para funcionar como ele deveria. Apesar de parecer com o Ubuntu de certa forma, o MX é baseado no Debian, como eu já tinha comentado, e isso faz com que certas configurações teoricamente fossem um pouquinho mais trabalhosas de se fazer, né? E provavelmente é aí que o MX brilha, porque ele criou várias tools que permitem que você faça isso de uma forma bem mais simples. Existe um painel chamado MX Tools ou MX Tools, que concentra todas as várias ferramentas disponibilizadas pela equipe do MX Linux, que inclui uma ferramenta para remasterizar sua própria distro, que é uma ISO mutável, aí chamada de Remaster CC. Tem também uma ferramenta de backups via snapshots, ferramentas como Boot Repair, editor de menu, entre outras opções que permitem fazer limpeza no cache do sistema, assim como outros arquivos temporários com a finalidade de liberar espaço. Você também vai encontrar um instalador de drivers NVIDIA, que é uma coisa muito boa e é uma coisa que não é encontrada no Debian puro por padrão. Temos também um instalador de codecs, o Conk Manager para você configurar o Conk que já vem habilitado na área de trabalho por padrão, uma ferramenta para configurar idiomas, ferramentas de reparo e manuseio de repositório e até um montador de dispositivos Apple, entre outras coisas. Algo que vale ressaltar é o MX ou MX Package Installer. Ele seria o equivalente a uma loja de aplicativos, mas ele lembra muito mais um Synaptic ou um Octopus da vida do que uma loja. Efetivamente, ele é um gestor de pacotes e não uma loja. Ele é feito para ser funcional e não bonito. E ele consegue fazer muito bem o seu trabalho, te dando acesso em uma única interface aos pacotes do repositório estável do Debian, o repositório de testes do MX Linux, o repositório Backports do Debian e o FlatHub para você instalar software via Flatpak. Através de uma ferramenta atrelada a ele, você consegue fazer a atualização do sistema também. Sistema esse que, segundo os desenvolvedores, seria semi-rolling. Outra peculiaridade que a gente pode ver nele é que ele usa a init System 5 ao invés do Systemd. O MX Linux teria o objetivo de atender computadores mais modestos em termos de potência, como qualquer XFCE praticamente, nesse ponto nada especial. Visualmente falando, nada é efetivamente original e produzido pelo MX Linux. O tema GTK é o ARC, o tema de ícones é o Papyrus, eles são belos, como eu já tinha falado, e até eles têm uma boa combinação juntos em alguns casos, mas não tem absolutamente nenhuma modificação. As únicas coisas, levando em consideração o aspecto visual que são de origem do MX, são o painel vertical, uma customização simples, na verdade, do painel do XFCE, que você mesmo pode fazer em qualquer distro. Nós temos um vídeo aqui no canal que te ensina a customizar essa interface, é só clicar aqui no card para você conferir. E os papéis de parede, com algumas imagens bem escolhidas até, mas com a péssima ideia de colocar a marca d'água com o nome do MX Linux em absolutamente todas as imagens, tipo o Manjaro que eu tinha mostrado esses tempos aí, mostrando o quanto o design não é o forte da distro. Sem dúvida, o maior selling point do MX Linux são as suas ferramentas que, novamente, não têm a melhor UX experience aí, mas são eficazes no que fazem. Existem vários repositórios ativos na distro por padrão que te dão acesso a vários aplicativos que não estariam no repositório do Debian por padrão, o que pode ser encarado como algo bom ou ruim, dependendo do seu ponto de vista. Se você gosta de um Debian mais puro, pode ser uma opção interessante, dadas as várias ferramentas de configuração que te ajudam a resolver problemas que talvez você não tivesse se não estivesse usando essa distro. Essa é para pensar, né? Particularmente eu não vi nada de muito especial, algo único que só o MX possa oferecer, mas isso não impede de ser uma alternativa interessante para várias pessoas. Talvez o Linux Mint Debian Edition pode ser um concorrente dele agora, até mesmo o Deepin, agora baseando-se no Debian Stable também, o que faz o MX uma alternativa mais clara apenas para quem gosta de XFCE, mais Debian, e quer ter certas ferramentas gráficas para o manuseio de pacotes e configurações, sem depender, por exemplo, do Gnome Software, por exemplo, para manusear Flatpaks de forma gráfica. Se você curte o MX Linux, coloque aqui nos comentários o que você mais gosta dele. Se você ainda não conhecia, coloca aí quais foram as suas primeiras impressões através desse vídeo. Se você quiser testar o MX para dar um spin aí, o link está na descrição, beleza? Esse vídeo fica por aqui e até a próxima. Falou!
Do you like macOS? I like macOS. I cannot say, but should I say that I installed it at my PC? Oh my gosh. I like macOS. Ai, meu Deus. Dá pra comer lá na cozinha? Mãe, dá pra você comer na cozinha? Tá fazendo muito barulho. Tá um terror. Mãe,
Oi.
dá pra comer na cozinha? Você viu o que eu falei? Ai, this has been very boring. So slow to do this change. I think I was too crazy to force every object to every fat object to to be supplied and a context no a context object sort of very annoying. Now I'm trying to overcome this requirement. This artificial requirement, this imposed requirement. Many times you need to a context object, you have a parent object or something, a helper object, a context object or whatever like this. But this is not always a requirement. But every time you inherit from object, you often had to create a constructor and almost like a hard-coded requirement, and literally to create a constructor that receive it that requires the context object. And what's the problem with that? Construct and there's another problem that it's very common. I found at least with my class hierarchy, ca2 class hierarchy, to have virtual classes. It's difficult to explain virtual classes, but it's like something like that. Let's say you inherit from two objects. You make album build, inherit from album and from build. An album inherits from object and build inherits from object. If if the inheritance is virtual, you won't create when you inherit album build from album and from build to other classes, and those classes both album inherits from object and build inherits from object. If the inheritance is not virtual, you have copies, literal copies of all members and from each inheritance into the album build class. And it's very rare when no, it's not very rare, but generally when you talk from objects, you want all all functionality that you may merge to be all functionality to be merged. If it's an object, if it's an album, okay, it's an album. Build generally don't have two copies of the same thing. If you merge two classes that have a common object. So I generally I do this virtual inheritance. And when you have this, it's a requirement that if you call the default constructor, you don't need to call a constructor. But if it's a requirement to pass the context object to the base class, you have to put all base classes, the base of the base of the base here, So it's so I it's so even for me that I am used to do a lot of code and code and code and it's true, the C++ requires a lot of code application, like it's very common you do a declaration, then implementation, declaration, implementation. And because you have data typing, you have to declare and then use what you declare. You cannot just start using without declaring. So by definition, you are always doing duplication, duplication, duplication. But this is not duplication. Put all base classes like multiplication, multiplication. So it's really awful to, and then you have to search which are the base classes, and so it's very overwhelming to put in every constructor all the base classes that in the class hierarchy that this class inherits from, just because you're supplying a parameter. and you have to pass this parameter to all base classes in order to things work correctly somewhat. Many times you can even call the default constructor at your base class, but also having to check at every basic class to know which constructor you're gonna call. I know it's too much. It's worse. It's multiplication of the multiplication of the multiplication. Calling a virtual function that's used to initialize, for example, is much more straightforward. You just have to call at most the base class initialize and not every base. You just have to remember to call the base class implementation or the base class. If there was a one you would call. This is where things starts to get a bit confusing. You have to call album, build, initialize, and then both will in their own turn call object. It starts to get confusing too. The object initialize will be called two times. So you have then to keep track to avoid duplicate initialization. This is a bit of why multiple inheritance is sort of complex and a complex thing. But we don't do this often. And then when you do multiple inheritance, you're more like getting happy because you're gluing together, not having to implement everything from scratch, the functionality of two classes. And you're more apt to to reuse the functionality of the individual classes and having fun fixing the merges than to implementing everything from scratch. I think I'm going to rest and to call it empty grocery bag. I'm very likely also to do this task I'm doing offline because it's been very, I think, tiresome, not just for me but for people watching. So I think I'm going to do this work offline, maybe even now, but also later to offline. This offline. Good night, empty grocery bag. I wish I have better news or some new activity, please. To do when we come back.
Vai querer ameixa gelada?
Eu vou dar uma parada de streamar. Eu quero